Okay. Well, we are a few minutes away from getting started. Thanks for being early. We're about 3 or 4 minutes away from getting started. So we're glad you're here, and we're glad you're here early. I'm going to be trying to interact with some of you here. And I see lots of people with their cameras on. Thanks, guys. This will be a fun call. I see Misty. Hey, Misty. And Yvette. What's up, Yvette? Whenever I see Yvette Oxford, Yvette, guys, for those of you who don't know, she's a nurse and a diabetes educator and is kind of a celebrity on social media. But Yvette, I'm always curious to see what sweatshirt she's got on. Sometimes it's Alabama. I don't know if I've seen Alabama. It's often LSU. I've seen BYU. I've seen, I think, Auburn. I've seen all kinds of stuff. Georgia for sure. All right, let's see here. Greg, what's up, Greg? And Renee Peterson, what's up, Renee? And Cynthia in Mexico, what's up, Cynthia? And Jim Capsalis in North Carolina, what's up, Jim? And Frankie, what's up, Frankie? And we got Jim Grasser with his camera on. Hey, Jim. Hey, Willie Brumfield, Dr. Marla. How are you, Dr. Marla? Kelly Holiday, hi, Kelly. And Jeff Martin and Michelle Burns and Lorraine Dennis. Thanks, everybody, for having your cameras on. Miss Monique, what's up, Miss Monique? And Terry, hey, Terry. I see Shannon Davis and Crystal Griffin and Kim Harmon. Okay, this is really cool. This is really cool. Well, hey, no pressure to have your cameras on, but it's kind of fun to connect, kind of fun. So if you can turn it on, that's always fun. Hey, Jeannie Miller says she's in Montana. Hey, Jeannie, how are you? Put in the chat where you're tuning in from. Jim, Barbecue Jim, I see you're on the call. Can you let me know? Just maybe send me a private message if our stream is working. Noreen in Las Vegas. Amy. Oh, these are moving too fast. North Carolina, South Mississippi, Kansas, California, Michigan, Atlanta. Oh, this is cool. Maui. Hey, from Maui. Okay. We're glad you're all here. Just so you know, we're about 2 minutes away from getting started. 2 minutes away from getting started. Thanks, Jim. I got your direct message. Thank you. Let me get my tools ready, and we're going to get started in about 60 seconds. I just want to make sure I am prepared. If you're just tuning in, you haven't missed anything yet. We're going to start in about 30 seconds. Ooh, I better set up our translation. All right, we got Spanish translation. Guys, we've had Spanish translation, Somali translation. We're going to start having a lot of different languages because this is just, there's so much demand. Oops. We're going to get started in about 30 seconds. Okay, here we go. The recording is started. Welcome, everybody, to tonight's call. This is a science call, a coaching call, a live Q&A call with special guests that I'm really, really excited to get to. I mean, I'm really looking forward to tonight's call. This is a call all about metabolic health. 93%. This is a study that was done recently showing 93% of American adults, North American adults, have damaged metabolic health. They have poor cardiometabolic health. Why is everyone getting sick? Why does everybody have damaged metabolic health, right? On this call, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about insulin resistance. And most importantly, we're not just going to talk about problems. We're going to talk about solutions to problems. So we're going to talk about ways to reverse and address these problems naturally. And I'm so excited about the lineup of speakers we have. So we're glad that you're here. There's 160 people on this live call and a bunch of people on the restream. Welcome. If you haven't yet, drop a comment and in the Zoom here and let us know where you're tuning in from. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just for a moment, and then we'll get started on the call. So I want to briefly introduce myself. My name's Trent, and this is a picture of me and my dad. And about 6.5 years ago, my dad died from stage 4 colon cancer. Now, my dad was my hero and the greatest man that I've ever known. When he got sick, I got really desperate and I started to read and research everything that I could to hopefully come up with some way to save my dying father. But who am I to do that? I'm not a doctor or a nurse or a medical, a scientist or anything. I'm just a regular guy who cared about his dying father, right? And my dad was sick with a lot of things, but they all had one root cause, and that was insulin resistance. Now, this may be the first time you've ever heard the term insulin resistance, but by the end of this call, you're going to know more about it than 99% of the world. My dad was a pre-diabetic. My dad had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high blood sugar. He had psoriasis all over his body. This is a pretty good photo of my dad. There were times where my dad was very, very overweight and he had fatty liver and everything else you could imagine. And when I learned what we're going to talk about on tonight's call, I decided to make it my mission to spread awareness throughout the world about natural ways to fix and prevent these problems. And so I started making content on social media and have had a really good, strong response from all over the world. And we started doing these calls because we wanted to change the world. And there are 192 people right now, and this number continues to grow every 2 or 3 seconds, right? But we hope that we can change your world tonight. We want to change the world and teach people about something that is so simple that can fix so many problems for so many wonderful people. So my dad didn't make it, but we are committed to help your dad or your mom or your loved one or whoever you're worried about, or maybe it's you yourself, completely change your life with this fantastic protocol. So, okay, without more of Trent talking, I want to get to our first guest. Every week, I bring somebody onto this call, and most of the time, they are people who are strangers to me. Misty Zimmerman and I did not know each other prior to crossing paths with all of this. And Misty is somebody that I've started to get to know recently and have had a wonderful, wonderful time interacting with. And so Misty, I asked Misty if she would be willing to just come on for a couple of minutes and share what has happened in her life since starting this protocol. So Misty, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where were you at with your health prior to starting this protocol?
So thank you so much, Trent, for having me on here tonight. It's a real pleasure. So let's just say I was a yo-yo dieter for the majority of my life. Always was a Weight Watcher member since back in the late 80s. Always was very successful when I decided to take some weight off, but my problem was I could never learn how to maintain it. So about every 5 years, it seemed like I would have a panic attack. I hit the 50s and I'm like, oh boy, I'm 50 now. I've got to start taking care of my health. And then before I knew it, I was 55 and I still hadn't gotten control of my health. And then what do you know? I turned 60. And that was really tough for me to swallow. And I thought, what am I doing? Like, I am heading down the complete wrong path. I have 11 grandchildren. I want to see these grandchildren, graduate high school, get married, maybe even meet my great grandchildren someday. So I knew I had to do something. And literally, when I got to the end of last year, I felt like I had hit rock bottom. And I think sometimes you have to do that, before you really wake up and say, okay, enough is enough. So I had a lot of depression. And the more depressed I got, the more I ate. I had no desire to do things with my husband. He wanted me to travel, once take me to Paris, want to do this. I'm like, I don't want to go. I'm embarrassed. Like, I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I feel. I'm not gonna enjoy that. And I was letting him down all the time. My blood pressure was always teetering just between, they didn't really have me on full-blown blood pressure medication, but they had me on hydrochlorothiazide for many years because in order to keep my blood pressure at bay, but it just kept creeping up. I had the most severe joint pain. I can't even explain how badly. I mean, my fingers hurt to grip the steering wheel. And I knew that it was from all the sugar and the carbs and just really unhealthy fast food. Just love my fast food, not making good decisions. Um, so inflammation in my body, severe heartburn to the point where I would go to bed at night and I would wake up 2 hours after I hit the bed, sitting straight up in the bed thinking, I think I'm having a heart attack. Like this heartburn is very bad. And do I, if I take a Tum and it goes away, then I think I'm okay. But I was eating Tums like they were candy. I had restless leg syndrome very badly. I had a bout of neuropathy on one of my feet that was really getting bad, and then just insomnia. So I went to see a new doctor at the end of last year. We moved out to the country. We had to find a new doctor. And this guy did not know me from Adam. And he didn't know what my history had been with my weight. But he said something, he started talking about medication. And I've never done medication for weight loss. And I'm telling you what, it offended me because I'm thinking I feel like I'm a pretty smart woman. And I feel like, why would I want to do something like that I'm going to have to worry about 27 other side effects?
Right.
And literally, I feel like he did me a favor that day. I think he lit a fire under me because I was like, by golly, no one is going to tell this girl that she's going on medication. I will do it. And I'll come back to see this guy and I'm going to prove him wrong. So I wadded up his prescription and tossed it in my back seat and said, okay, here we go. So I decided to start Weight Watchers back again the 1st of January. Well, then I happened upon this program. And I started this program on January the 6th. The very first day on the protocol, I fasted for 18 hours like no one's business. I had no idea how it even happened. All I knew was I'm sipping this tea and I am not thinking about food. And I was so excited just by that. I noticed within the first week that the pain in my joints was subsiding. My heartburn went away. I started sleeping soundly, no more insomnia. My restless leg syndrome went away. I mean, I used to get so mad I couldn't even sit down on the couch at night because it literally I was like bonkers with this restless leg syndrome. Went away completely. The neuropathy I had on the top of my foot, no more. Now, when I heard about this program, I think the main thing I heard is, hey, you can lose some weight because that's a side effect. So that's what I signed up for, okay? I had no idea what was about to happen with my mood and my energy. But I'm telling you what, I say this all the time. I say, sometimes you feel like you feel good yourself, but when people that you love and are around all the time start making comments to you like, wow, like you are a different person. You seem like you're so happy all the time. And, what is it you're doing? That's when you know you're not imagining it. Okay.
Yeah.
So that happened, down 56 pounds as of today. I'm off of 4 medications. 2 of those medications I took for over 30 years. One of those was my hydrochlorothiazide. The other was an antidepressant. The third, I took a second antidepressant, started about 7 years ago because they said the first one wasn't working well enough. I'd been on it too long. My body was adjusting. So they put me on a second one. I've already gotten off of that one with the help of my doctor. And I just saw him last Monday and he's weaning me off the other that I've been off or on, like I said, for 30 plus years. But then, yes.
So I want to clarify.
Mm-hmm.
You've been on this protocol since January, the first week of January, something like that, second week of January.
January 6th. Yeah.
You've lost over 50 pounds. And you mentioned you're 60. So you've lost 50 pounds in the toughest time, a season of life for you to lose that weight. You're off 4 medications. And you mentioned that one of the root problems that you had was the depression, the poor mental health would lead to poor food choices, which led to
just a vicious cycle. Right.
A vicious cycle. And so this is amazing. I mean, what you're saying, I mean, you need to check the chat after you're done, Misty, because it's going nuts with people just giving Uh, we've got about 60 more seconds. Maybe just tell me in your headspace now, what has changed? I mean, what kind of feelings and emotions were you feeling before, and what do you feel now?
I just feel like a completely different person, truly. I mean, I told my husband 2 nights ago, I said, I feel like I've drank from the fountain of youth. I mean, I wake up every day. I'm now waking up for the first time in my life before an alarm clock goes off. On Saturday morning, I'm up at 6:15, and I'm not hitting the couch to watch Netflix or to watch, play games on my phone or to watch TikTok. I am out and about in my house getting things done that I've wanted to do for so long. And I truly, I can't even describe the feeling. It's like a whole new lease on life. And I'm so pumped and so passionate. And I literally want to just get out in my yard and just scream it out to everybody because I want everyone to experience this. So
Well,
that's why I do what I do, because I'm all about showing people, hey, I'm just a normal person. I'm a 60, almost 61-year-old grandma in Ohio, just minding my own business. And I came across this and it's completely changed my life.
so
So
so Misty, first off, thank you. What you
thank
just shared
you.
today will definitely inspire people who are skeptical, or many of you maybe that are watching this are like, okay, I still don't know what this protocol even is. Don't worry, we're going to get to that. But your story is so inspiring. Second, if the manufacturer is listening, I think you've just found your official, like, spokesperson for the company, because that was one of the most articulate, well explained stories. I mean, you had me on the edge of my seat the whole way, and it was just awesome. And then if you would just put in the comments, I know you've kind of started to catalog what you're doing on social media for people that want to follow you or want to see what you're doing. Where would
Yeah,
they be able to see? Because you've talked a lot about the depression and about what you've been through, and that might be inspiring for people. So, Misty,
absolutely.
that was incredible. And I failed today to set up a proper appointment for this call. I usually try to have at least one guest, and we have family in town, so it didn't happen. And I reached out to Misty last minute. She's like, "No problem. Yep, I'm in. Let's do it." So thank you. That
Thank
was
you,
very
Trent.
that was very polished for absolutely no notice from me. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're awesome. Okay, so that was amazing. All right, and if you thought that was good, by the end of this little call we're doing, you're gonna have so much proof that this works so fantastically that I hope if you haven't started yet, you'll give this a shot. Now, we have a very special guest on tonight's call who's going to do the majority of the presenting and the talking. This is a doctor. This is Dr. Tiffany Hendricks. Now, Dr. Tiffany is a doctor that is, you know, there's not, I mean, how do I say this without putting my foot in my mouth, which I have an absolute gift for? We know that there are life-saving medications out there that are wonderful, and we thank God for them. But Dr. Tiffany is a doctor that believes that you cannot medicate away a lifestyle problem. You have to fix the lifestyle problem. And so she's all about less prescriptions and more living. And Dr. Tiffany is actually a doctor that is kind of becoming quite a celebrity on social media, where she does educational videos and teaches people about metabolic health and teaches people about blood sugar and weight control and cholesterol and all these things. And so we invited Dr. Tiffany, and she accepted to come and be our special guest today. We want to give her a lot of love. Dr. Tiffany is going to be talking about metabolic health and specifically about insulin resistance. After Dr. Tiffany, we're going to explain the protocol very carefully, and then we're going to bring Dr. Tiffany back on for the end of the call for a Q&A, a live Q&A with those of you on the call. We have 300 people, just 281 people now that are on the live Zoom, and so many of you watching on different restreams. So Dr. Tiffany, I'll stop talking. We want you to take over, and we're so excited to hear from you.
Oh, wow. I mean, I don't know what I do with that type of introduction. So thank you so much, Trent. And for all the love in the chat. Oh my gosh. I love all y'all too. Everybody I've gotten to meet. I mean, I've gotten to meet so many of you. Anyway, so first off, I do have to give a little shout out for Steve. Steve actually hooked up my slides because just like he said, I'm crazy busy. And so all I had to do was show up and talk. So this is my thing. And I love metabolic health. So I'm gonna show my slide. And so when he's talking about Trent was talking about me getting on social media. One of the first things that I've ever said is I'm just a doc who's tired of writing prescriptions, bottom line. I'm just done. I'm done of writing 10 prescriptions for one person and then turn around having to write prescriptions for the side effects of the prescriptions. It was just too much. So I ended up getting certified in lifestyle medicine to talk about the root causes of conditions and learning how to coach and help people with that transition. And I was able to connect with people that showed me some tools to help my patients even more. And here I am. Now, metabolic health. Metabolic health is a global concern affecting people of all nations and people of all ages, right? But good news is we do have something that can help and do this naturally. Naturally, you can do it, but we also have tools that make that even easier. And when we're looking at the global health crisis, I mean, these stats are staggering. The global diabetes prevalence reportedly 6%. And in the US, up to 11% of the population living with diabetes, and 38% has prediabetes. And then when you look at how these numbers are even estimated to even project out to 2040, in the world, you're looking at 642 million people with diabetes by 2040. 642 million. Now, the US health crisis stats, we're looking at the 10 top causes of death. And these are in high-income countries, really, not just the U.S. And you see heart disease, you see Alzheimer's disease, you see stroke, you see COPD, you see diabetes. But what's crazy is 9 out of 10 of these are actually preventable. They're lifestyle-related diseases. And so I have a colleague that has a book about reversing diabetes with what you're eating. And one of the things she says is genetics are like loading the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger. So just because you have people in your family with these conditions, that does not mean that you are bound to have these problems if we can make some changes and give you some tools to make it easier. Type 2 diabetes on track to serve 700% of young Americans. So a wake-up call like yesterday. How many times have we seen children that are obese or dealing with these conditions? This is not new news. And heart disease still remains to be the #1 killer for us in America. And just like the study that Trent was referring to, only 7% of Americans actually have good metabolic health. 7%. So that means there's a lot more people than we realize walking around with issues, and a lot of them don't even know or don't even have the tools to get better. And then you look at the fact that, so since all we really had as physicians were statin medications to treat or decrease the cardiovascular risk, the amount has increased 77% since 2008 prescribing that medication. And what's sad is that only helps 1 out of 10 people with preventing cardiovascular disease. Just one out of not 10, I'm sorry, 1 out of 100. That's even worse. But lifestyle changes actually can reduce 39 out of 100. So why are we dealing with drugs, right? So when you look at metabolic health, there's plenty of ways to describe this. I picked one that I thought was pretty simple, easy to understand. How well your body can make and use energy from your food, helping your cells function at full capacity, okay? Now, since I have people here and I have a tendency just to rattle on, I'd love for people to put in the chat if they know anyone who has any of these conditions or if they deal with these conditions. If I'm honest, when I go to family reunions, I can't walk in a room without tripping over somebody who has something that's on this list. It is just that prevalent. Or when I go to church functions, so many people are dealing with type 2 diabetes, heart disease, lung disease, and so many people are on medications that I wish they weren't on. So I know this is something that I'm not the only one that's had to run across. So then what is driving this health crisis, right? Well, you have big food, which is what I like to call them, and big agriculture. And when you look at the big food graph, I mean, come on, that's everything. Anything that's packaged, boxed, or with a barcode. And so all these things, which are processed foods, meaning all the fibers been pulled out of them, all the things to make them more addictive, more attractive, that's what's in these things. And we're living the results of that. And then, of course, our fiber isn't fibering like it used to. I mean, you have your pictures of your old carrots, how they look so much different to carrots now, your old apples and how they look different to the apples now. I mean, the reality is things have much less fiber in it. Fiber was there on purpose to help dampen the effect of this glucose, these starches, so that way we wouldn't be in the predicament that we're in now. And then even with our meats and the toxins that are in the water, the antibiotics and the steroids that we're giving, our chicken, we're just making foods that really weren't made for us to be eating this way. And that's why we're dealing with these conditions. And so, of course, when you have the modern food environment doing all this, and it's setting up all these conditions, what it does is it allows Big Pharma to say, hey, let's make drugs to fix that. And they lead that and pass it on to doctors in medical school, people like me. So for this condition, we have to prescribe this. And we prescribe them because we don't know any better. And then the same Big Pharma is putting more money back into this modern food environment, all those companies to keep doing all this stuff, to keep us in this horrible loop to where we're getting older, having low energy, can't really lose weight, and constantly hungry. So I'm about tired of that. And I'm sure the rest of you are too. So looking at this graph here, what do these symptoms have in common? And if I am really honest, symptoms and diseases, I didn't really understand insulin resistance. I knew about metabolic syndrome. That's something we were taught, syndrome X. But as far as understanding that insulin resistance was really at the center of this, that was something that I had to do some research and look into myself. So I know I'm not the only one that didn't understand that. But when I did, it made all the difference. Because then all these other crazy symptoms started to make sense. The skin tags. I mean, for people of color, we look at these skin tags and they're almost like a badge of honor from us getting older. No, no, no. That is insulin resistance. That is overgrowth in those skin cells because insulin has some growth hormone function, right? Same thing with the pigmentation. That's not a dirty neck, even though sometimes it is, but most times that's from overgrowth from pigmentation. And so for all this time, you'd be looking at somebody, people getting fussed at for being dirty, and they really just need to go see their doctor and fix their insulin resistance. Cravings for sugar and salty snacks, brain fog, irregular cycles, erectile dysfunction. I mean, low thyroid issues. And then psoriasis. Psoriasis got me because I actually had a patient with psoriasis. And I said, oh my gosh, yeah, insulin resistance with that too. And the adult acne, that was a beast. I mean, who gets acne in their 40s? That was no fun at all. But that's insulin resistance, right? And so when you actually start reversing that, it means the whole world to so many people. Now, the big issue is this big visceral fat sitting right here. I mean, the snatch thing, that's the thing. Everybody wants to have a small waist, but what's more important is getting that fat from around those organs, because that's what puts us at risk for heart disease, which is the number one killer, right? So insulin. Insulin is a hormone that has many functions. And one of the ones that I like to talk about really is how it regulates blood sugar, okay? So when you're eating, and we're just going to simplify this, and your food gets broken down into glucose. Now, certain macronutrients don't get broken down into much glucose or get glucose at all. But the point of this, when you eat, it's going to get broken down into some sort, we're going to say glucose for energy, okay? The pancreas is behind the stomach, and what it does is it releases insulin. That's this little purple circle here. And it does this to bring that glucose into the cell. And yeah, I stole this from Dr. Aiken. I like this. But anyhow, it opens up a channel to be able to get that glucose into the cell to be used. So when you eat a meal that is high in carbohydrates, like in this graph we see here, it shoots up that dark blue line. That's your carbohydrate line, right? And because it was so high in carbohydrates, the insulin had to shoot up high too. And it kind of overshoots. It stays around too long, maybe 3 or 4 hours. And because it does that, that glucose line, that carbohydrate drops too low. And this is where you start to feel tired, start to feel hungry, start to get the itis that we talk about, like when you have those Thanksgiving meals or Christmas meals and you overdo it and everybody sleep after eating. It's because they're here, this reactive hypoglycemia period. And not only that, this is the time when you want to snack more. And so you want to snack again, but your insulin's already high. So then your insulin stays high. And so you have hyperinsulinemia. But then you also end up developing insulin resistance. If too much is hanging around, much like a teenager, your cells stop listening to it. And then because of the way insulin likes to work on fat cells, when all this insulin is floating around, what do you think it does? It stores more fat, stores that glucose as fat. And if you're not a bear trying to hibernate for the winter, you don't want to store any more fat for later. I don't. So I say all this and I say all the doom and gloom, and it becomes, there are 5 easy things to do. They are, and they're relatively easy. One, having a lower carb lifestyle with lower glycemic index, and you can get on the University of Sydney's website to be able to figure out what foods have low glycemic indexes, right? Avoiding processed carbs and refined sugars, that's that bag, box, the barcode food that is nobody's friend. Nobody needs to be eating those. In fact, things are getting so processed now, it's like our body doesn't even know what to do with it. It's like, what is that? Oh, I think it's fat. I'm going to store this fat. I don't want that. Then exercise, weight training, that whole cardiovascular thing that we used to push for years, that's not the only thing we need to be doing. We need to be doing weight training, build up our muscle, build up our bones. That actually helps. And then high fiber, and I have people that have already been like, I don't eat vegetables, so what do I do? Well, we got some tools to help you. But we have studies that show that having more fiber, having more plants in your diet and what you eat can actually improve your sugars, your cholesterol, your blood pressure. There's actually even programs based upon that alone. Now, 40 grams is the target amount of fiber that was shown to compete with statin medications, but who's eating that? I mean, I wasn't, and I call myself trying to be very healthy. It is hard to do. I mean, that's what, 10 apples, 5 bushels of broccoli. Nobody's doing that. And then time-based eating. But of course, when you have something that can help you do those 5 things don't become daunting tasks. They become something that's easier to do. So we all have GLP-1, that's a hormone. But the problem is we have not, with our lifestyle, not managing our stress, not eating the right foods, we don't respond well to that GLP-1 hormone. Now, when I say this term, you'd have to be kind of living under a rock to not know anything about the synthetic form that the pharmaceutical companies have made, the Wegovy, Ozempic. That's a way to astronomically increase that GLP-1 protein. And when you do something like that, you end up having all these crazy side effects because you're kicking up the dosages way too much. I mean, these medications were originally made for diabetics. And what's sad is, I can't even get my diabetics to get this medication because too many people want it for the weight loss. I mean, so many people want this med that they are writing me up because I don't want to write it. It's ridiculous. It goes on back order. People get mad. They start having side effects and people stay on it despite the side effects. Why not do something that's going to naturally boost what that medicine is trying to do without giving you all those crazy side effects? It allows you to be able to do one of those 5 things, well, maybe 2 of those 5 things, with just taking something naturally. And that's what the Unimate does. It allows you to end up boosting that GLP-1 protein 60% in a fasted state. Now, if anybody follows me on social media, I love the whole Matrix reference because that's what I felt like. I felt like I was originally, like I got my red pill and I was released from the Matrix. I was allowed to see life for real and actually live, in what's really happening. So it's all about perspective. So if I told you intermittent fasting was really intermittent eating, would that make it sound better? I mean, because I have so many people that when I start bringing them intermittent fasting, they go running for the hills like, no, I don't want to do it. But it really is just doing intermittent eating, but there's so many benefits. Increased focus, reduced inflammation, growth hormone going up, boost immune system, and the weight loss. I mean, that's nice to have the fat burning. I'm not going to lie. That little side effect of fat burning, I signed up for that. I'm with Misty on that. I signed up for that. But when you go long periods without eating, your pancreas stops secreting insulin and then starts to secrete glucagon. Now, this hormone, what it does is it signals the body to tap into fat cells for the energy. So it goes into the freezer for those stores of energy. And that way you start burning your love handles for energy. Back to the 5 things you can do easily on your own. You can. Especially with these tools like the Unimate and the balance to help with the fiber, the Unimate to help with the fasting and the low carb, it becomes a no-brainer. And it has helped me be able to help so many people need less prescriptions to enjoy more living. So if you want to see more content like this, go to all my social media pages. That's what I do all day long. I love it. This is fun for me.
Tiffany, this has been amazing. I am so, so grateful. I just want to say, and I hope you've seen yourself, or I hope you've seen in the chat how much love you're getting because everybody just loved that. And I want to say thank you so much for taking your valuable time. I know as a doctor, you got a really nice hourly rate, and for you to come on here voluntarily and teach all of us is such a gift. And we want to thank you so much. So we want to bring you back in just a moment. for the Q&A, because I'm sure a lot of people have questions for Dr. Tiffany. So we want to bring you back here in a moment. I want to just share with everybody, there's so many people on here that have probably not started the protocol or tried the protocol yet, or maybe you have a family member that you're hoping will give this a shot and you haven't been able to convince them to do it. I want to give you the most compelling proof I can possibly give you. There is no magic about what we're doing. Okay, this is just science, and we're leaning into the science. All right. But in a moment, I want to first explain how the protocol works, and then I want to give you undeniable proof that hopefully will be enough to get you to be like, okay, what do I have to lose? Let's give this a shot. So I'm going to share my screen and kind of talk through how the protocol works. Dr. Tiffany did a better job than I can do. So I do not want to really say much more than what she shared, other than to recap, because we have about 100 new people on the call since she started. So I'm going to briefly recap a couple of things. And she did so well. Now, we're supposed to have our Zoom limit beyond 300, but we keep getting stuck at 300. So maybe that hasn't happened yet. We're eventually going to get this call to thousands of people. Okay, so Dr. Tiffany talked about this problem of insulin resistance. Now, this is the root cause problem, as she mentioned. So if you have any of these symptoms that nobody wants to have or live with, the answer is to go ahead and kill the insulin resistance. If you can kill the root of the tree, guess what? A lot of the symptoms will die with it. And so everything we want to teach on this call about insulin resistance, we're doing with one goal in mind, and that is to help you beat it. We want to help you become more insulin sensitive, because like Misty said, when you become more insulin sensitive, and I'm quoting and paraphrasing from Misty here, when she became more insulin sensitive, her depression got better. She's off 2 medications, right? Her brain fog, not being able to get things done, not being productive around the house, right? Her cravings, constant hunger, constant sugar cravings, her belly fat, 56 pounds in 6 months. And she did this at the age of 60 when her body is going through all kinds of changes, right? So when we become more insulin sensitive, it's like our body finally starts working. And for people like me and Misty, who have been on every diet under the sun and have been yo-yo dieters for decades, to have something that breaks that cycle and to have your body and your metabolism and your health back, she said, I mean, Misty said, it's like I have a new lease on life. So how do we do it? And Dr. Tiffany talked about big food. I love that. There's big pharma and big food. We need to understand that in nature, every sugar, every carbohydrate comes wrapped and packaged in fiber, okay? What food makers have been doing is they take a natural product like wild rice, they remove all the fiber, and we're only eating the cake. We're not getting any of the fiber, okay? And so I won't go through this. Dr. Tiffany did it so well. When Big Food started playing with our food and removing all the fiber, we lost control of our blood sugar. We lost control of our cholesterol and our triglycerides. We lost control of our gut health, which led to our irritable bowel syndrome and our depression and our anxiety. And we lost control of satiety. Satiety is incredibly important, because if we eat food and don't feel satisfied, we are likely to eat more food. And so when they started removing fiber from the modern diet, we started to get a bunch of problems. And so one of the things that we're doing with this protocol is we're bringing the fiber back, not just any fiber. You can't dump Metamucil on these problems and expect them to disappear, okay? You've got to have the right types of fiber that do the right types of things. And Dr. Tiffany talked about those. She also talked about the Unimate, and I won't go into too much more detail, but I do want to explain how this protocol works, because many people say, okay, you're telling me stop eating so much, start controlling my blood sugar, start eating more fiber. But maybe you are like me and you struggle with dietary discipline, and all of this is easier said than done, right? So the whole beauty of this protocol is that we take something called willpower, which is a problem for many of us, and we remove that from the equation. We make it so the willpower, we're going to put willpower in a packet for you. So how this protocol works, this is how you do the protocol. If you've got breakfast and you've got lunch and you've got dinner, what most of us are doing on the protocol is we are skipping a meal. So let's say we skip breakfast. When we skip breakfast, our body is not starving. Let me say that again. When we skip breakfast, our body is not starving. It is still getting calories, but it's getting those calories from where? If it's not getting the calories from food, it is getting the calories from fat, right? And our bodies were meant to do this. This is why the body makes those love handles in the first place, is to use that fat as energy later, right? And so when we're fasting, we're forcing our insulin levels low, and this allows our body to be extremely efficient at burning fat. Now, if we skip breakfast, we also save whatever we would have bought for breakfast, right? Maybe we would have gone to Starbucks or McDonald's or wherever for breakfast. We're going to take the $5 that we saved, and we're going to use that money to buy some things to take the willpower out of it. Because fasting is difficult for many of us. It's hard to go throughout the day feeling deprived. And so we're going to take this $5 and get some Unimate so we don't go through the day feeling deprived. And when I'm sipping the Unimate, I can stretch my fast. This is, I think, my second or third one today. I will sip the Unimate whenever I'm not eating, whenever I'm working, whenever I'm focused and don't want to be distracted with food noise. And the Unimate makes me forget about food. Then before our largest meal each day, and I personally have one before every meal, we're going to take before our heaviest meal, the balance. Balance is something that is going to change the world. Unimate too, I don't want to take anything. This protocol together is going to change the world. And I'm going to give you some proof. I'm making some big statements here. I better back them up, right? In the next 5 or 10 years, when you are in Pakistan on a vacation, or Paris, or Pennsylvania, or Peru, you are going to start seeing people's water at the gym, or when they're out walking, or when they're on the bus, and it will look like this. When you're at dinner, you're going to see people shaking up packets and mixing up this blend of fiber before they eat their meal. Because the whole world is getting sick, and this is the only natural, clinically proven and patented alternative to the drugs that people are taking. In fact, we have clinical proof. The manufacturer, I say we, I'm not the manufacturer. I buy it every month like many of you do. The manufacturer has clinically proven that this often works as well as medication for weight control, diabetes control, cholesterol, blood pressure, and a bunch of problems related to insulin resistance without the side effects associated with the medications, right? It works fantastically. If you look at the science, it will kind of blow your mind. So let's get to that. Oh, and by the way, it's pretty cool that it's cost neutral. You take the $5 you save on skipping a meal, that covers the cost of the protocol. You're burning fat, you're feeling good, you're getting a new lease on life, and it is cost neutral. Pretty great. And by the way, the manufacturer gives a 90-day, no questions asked, money back guarantee, which, I don't want to make this sound like an infomercial, but that's really cool, right? I mean, who else gives you that? Personal trainer doesn't give that. The doctor, metformin didn't give me that, right? Nobody gives me that. So I went on this protocol, and it was really good for me. I started talking about it and have had hundreds and hundreds of people tell me that this has completely changed their life. And I could go through a bunch of these, but I'm actually looking for a specific slide here. So, Dr. Tiffany talked about the Unimate. Why is Unimate going to change the world? Why is it going to be in Peru and Pakistan and Pennsylvania and Paris? Well, the chlorogenic acid in the Unimate is stronger than any other form that I can find. In fact, there's 375 times as much chlorogenic acid in Unimate as there is in regular yerba mate. And chlorogenic acid is a novel insulin sensitizer that potentiates insulin action similar to the therapeutic action of metformin. Am I saying that Unimate does a lot of what metformin does without the side effects? I'm not saying that. The scientists that wrote this study are saying that. It's here. They've done the research. It is amazing stuff. If you look at balance, there's nothing like it in the world. So, and just to help me prove this point, and then we got to bring Dr. Tiffany back, I said I was going to show everybody a bunch of proof. And actually, my game plan for that was to involve some of you. I know that many of you, there's 300 people on this call, many of you have been using this protocol. Some of you have been using it for a day, some for a week, some for a month, and some for over a year. If you would please do me a favor. If you or somebody that you love has been using this protocol and you have noticed a measurable positive result, I don't want you to exaggerate, just if you have noticed a measurable positive result, if you would put it in the chat for me, that would be wonderful. Just a sentence or two of what it's done for you. Now, many of you have invited people that you love and care about to this call. I know that there's a woman in Florida. I think her name is Carol. Carol is somebody that has people she cares about. Carol Rosado. I have never met Carol. Well, we're total strangers. She's probably surprised I know her name, but she has referred multiple friends that she loves and cares about to this call to listen in because she wants them to know what she has found. Okay. I want people to see the proof. So I'm going to read a couple of these and we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring in Dr. Tiffany for the Q&A and then we'll wrap up the call. Okay. Whoa. Okay. I cannot keep up with these. I'm going to read some of these. We won't be able to read all. Damon Cerruti. My brain fog is gone. My pre-diabetes is gone. Heartburn is gone. Depression gone. Oh, and I've lost 60 pounds. That is awesome, Damon. Oh, I'm happy for you. John Patterson lowered LDL cholesterol from 397 to 83. Triglycerides went from 498 to 80. Guys, John was a walking heart attack. A1C was 6.2, which is pre-diabetic, to 5. My neuropathy symptoms are gone. It has eliminated my acid reflux. I've lost 52 pounds since July of last year. Midge Brown reversed my pre-diabetes, lost 20 pounds, improved brain fog, energy, and mood. Jim Grasser, I've reversed my type 2 diabetes on the protocol. So has my mother and my mother-in-law. Shelly says I'm down 44 pounds and 31 inches. No more pre-diabetes, no more high A1C, cholesterol, or triglycerides. My husband is down 38 pounds, off high blood pressure medications. Together, we're down 82 pounds, life-changing. Jimmy, 1 year, I've reversed my fatty liver and type 2 diabetes. Blood pressure's down, sleep apnea, depression, erectile dysfunction gone, 88 pounds down, off 7 medications. I mean, guys, listen to this. This is what I'm talking about when I say this can change the world. Diane Weaver, 20 months. She's been on it for more than a year and a half. No more pain from inflammation. No more pain medications. No more acid reflux. Finally sleeping all night. My husband is off statins, lost 37 pounds. My mother-in-law is off blood pressure medications after 20 years, after only 2 months. I've lost over 30 pounds. Okay, there are probably, I'm guessing here, 70. Chris Nelson Rensel on Facebook says he's down 30 pounds, off Farxiga for blood sugar, off blood pressure medications, feel amazing, and reverse type 2. Guys, there are literally more comments here than we have time to read. Thank you for that. That's the proof I was looking for. And it's better coming from you than from me. If you use this system properly, and are consistent and stick with it, it will not let you down. Now, sometimes I cringe a little bit when I hear that somebody's lost 10 pounds in their first 10 days or whatever. Okay. I'm happy for you. And if anybody wrote that, I didn't see that. So I'm just going to say this. I didn't see a story like that in the chat. If it's there, I'm not, hey, I am happy for you if you've lost 10 pounds in 10 days. That is awesome. But if you haven't lost any weight in the first 10 days, I don't want you to think that it's not working for you. You've got to give it time. Everybody's different. But there's no magic about this. It's just science. And so if you just stick with it, we're going to get, with the fasting and the fiber, give it time to do its thing. We started getting sick when they started taking fiber out of everything. And when we started eating and snacking all the time, becoming insulin resistant, like Dr. Tiffany beautifully taught. When we do a little bit of fasting and a little bit of fiber, it goes a long way. Give it time, use it properly, and it will change your life like it did mine. Okay, Dr. Tiffany, let's bring you back. We have a little bit of time now for some Q&A. Now, you can raise your hand or you can ask in the Q&A, and we will try to bring some of you on the call live, okay? Now, I do need to say a couple of things. Number one, we want you to try to keep your question concise, and we're not able to go down the rabbit hole and answer 15 questions for one person, just, out of respect for everyone. The other thing that we want you to know is that although Dr. Tiffany is a very accomplished medical doctor, she is not your doctor. And so she may not have the answers for your specific questions, and she may prefer to defer. We don't want to give medical advice. And when in doubt, we want to encourage you to check with your doctor, okay? So in some cases, we have to defer. All right. We have a question from somebody named Sandy Cooper. Sandy, we're going to bring you on the call, and I'm going to invite you to unmute. Go ahead with your question.
Hi, thank you. Just real quick, I was wondering if MTC oil breaks your fast.
Okay, I can handle that question, I think, but Dr. Tiffany, I'll let you take it first if you'd like.
Well, okay, sure. I mean, that's a full fat. So that's one of those things that I let people kind of sneak and do. So, okay, well, there's different types of fast. So the fast of what we're trying to do here is we're trying to quiet insulin. So no, that does not break that insulin fast.
So great question and perfect answer from Dr. Tiffany. The MTC oil has fat, MCT oil has fat in it, okay? As Dr. Tiffany said. Now that fat, your body has to deal with that. Now that's not going to raise your insulin levels at all, but your body's going to burn the fat in the oil temporarily, and then it's going to go back to burning your fat. So just be aware of that. And there's a version of Unimate that's called Unimate Fuel, which is currently sold out. But it's going to be back, I imagine within days, that has some MCT oil in it. It's called Unimate Fuel, and it's a little thicker. And for somebody that's used to drinking like a thick espresso, that might be a good way to get off the espresso. So great question. Thanks so much, Sandy. Excellent question. Okay. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to ask you to unmute again. Let's bring some other people on. I've got to go to the Q&A real fast because there's some questions in there. Is there any chance we can get a copy of Dr. Tiffany's slides? They were awesome. That's from Tim Williams. Tim, I don't know about that. You'd have to message her, but Tiffany, do not feel required to send that to anybody. That's your work. TOA Podcast says, does this work for those on dialysis? Dr. Tiffany, do you have a response to that?
Oh, that's such a very special question. But what I did see in the chat was how some people's kidney functions have improved with this. So it's things like that that I use anecdotal evidence because I don't want to attach my name to something that does not improve. But we do see some great results for people to where if your doctor actually agrees with you using these products, or you get them to understand you're trying to make some lifestyle changes, it really might be worth doing it.
Great. Addie Chavez says, does this help with blood disorders?
Depends on the blood disorder. So because we know these products help with inflammation, there are certain conditions to where it would be helpful. But yeah, that's like let me sit down with a doctor and go over that.
Thank you. Okay. Dr. Angelica says, if we work out in the morning, how do you suggest going about fasting windows? Can I take a crack at this? And feel free to trump whatever I say here. So Angelica, I personally have worked with a lot of people now on this protocol that work out in the mornings, and many of them were super skeptical about doing fasted workouts. I need some fuel. How do you expect me to get through a workout with no fuel? Now, some of these people were people that had a fair amount of excess body fat still that they wanted to get rid of. That excess body fat is the fuel. Our body can fuel with food or it can fuel with fat. And when we're fasting, our body can get into that fat and it can burn the love handles for the workout fuel. Okay. So that's what we want it to do. Now, if you're a person that does not have a lot of excess body fat, then you may, or if you're training for an Ironman or something like that, then you may not fast. You might have some food and you might just fast between your meals or adjust the program accordingly if your goal is not fat loss. But far too often, and I learned this, I'm plagiarizing this from Dr. Ben Bickman, who said, I go on a hike almost every week, and I see these people on the hike that have a lot of excess body fat. And as they're hiking up the mountain, they're eating energy bars and energy drinks and snacks to fuel them on the workout. And he says, gosh, I'm thinking to myself, that's what this is for. And he kind of shook his love handles, right? He's like, that's what this is for. And so fasted workouts are great if you're trying to get rid of excess body fat. Tiffany, feel free to trump that if there's something you want to say.
Oh, no, I think you said that just fine. 100%. I love working out fasting.
Okay, Brenda Gwynn is asking, would this be good for someone with fatty liver?
Oh, 100% yes. I mean, that's the reason why you're having a fatty liver is because of the insulin resistance, because that's where now it's trying to store that fat in your liver. So yeah, this actually does improve that. We see those numbers change with that.
Okay, I've got to see if we have a lot coming in the Q&A, so I'm gonna go there. Nobody else is raising their hand. I guess you guys don't want to be live on the call. There we go. Okay, so anonymous participant says, is this safe to do if you are trying to get pregnant?
You gotta love those questions, don't you? So I'm gonna defer to Trent.
Okay, so yeah, that question is not as specific as I'm going to make it. Let's say that you were asking, if I'm struggling with fertility, will this help me? So PCOS is the number one cause of infertility in women. Insulin resistance is the number one contributor to PCOS. So in many cases, and we have stories, there's probably people listening right now that can tell you. In fact, we had a guest not too long ago. In many cases, this protocol has helped people with fertility to a great degree, right? But if you're nursing or breastfeeding, some people, my wife took the protocol while breastfeeding. I know lots of women have. Some people might prefer not to. If your doctor has told you, for example, that you shouldn't have any caffeine at all while breastfeeding, there is a little bit of caffeine, natural caffeine in the mate. So you should check with your doctor if you have those concerns. And that's what I would say. And that answers Sarah Runyon's question as well. Dr. Angelica, and we have time for maybe one or two more questions, says, thanks for clarifying the fasted workout thing. That makes sense. Now, how about after finishing the workout, you continue to fast as well? So yeah, if let's say my goal is to lose 20 pounds of excess body fat and I'm fasting through breakfast and I go and I do my workout and now I've just worked out. Let's say my workout, I burned, 300 calories. I had, right, whatever. Do I break my fast after the workout? If my goal is to get rid of that excess body fat, no, I would not personally. I would fast until lunch. And then when I go to lunch, I would have, a regular lunch. And knowing that 300 calories is coming from where? Now, the 300 calories that I burned during the exercise would be coming from fat. Glycogen stored in the liver and fat from fat cells. Okay. There is another question in the chat that I saw that I want to make sure we get to. Maria Garcia asked, can a person with kidney stones use the program? We're getting a lot of medical questions tonight. We got to be careful with some of them, but that might be one you're comfortable with, Tiffany. I don't know. Can a person with kidney stones use the protocol? With this, I mean, guys, there's no drugs in this. So, it's like asking, can a person with kidney stones eat a garden salad with lots of fiber in it? That's essentially what's being asked here, right? But I don't know, Dr. Tiffany, do you have a different take on that?
No, I like that take because then it keeps me out of the loop. But
Yeah.
yeah, the oxalate amounts are supposed to be lower in the Unimate to where that doesn't increase that risk. So depending on the kidney stone type,
Yeah.
there are people even in the chat have reported that they actually have less kidney stones.
Great question here from Heart Sisters Inc. If you're on diabetes medications and you start fasting, and let's say you start using this protocol, does the level fluctuate? I think she's saying, does your blood sugar level? Now, this is important. All right. So if you're somebody that is on medication, I want you to listen up here. This protocol is very effective at lowering blood sugar. And let me say more specifically, normalizing blood sugar. Okay. But if your blood sugar is high and you go on this protocol, we would anticipate that it's likely to normalize and come down. But then if in addition to that, you are taking medication that will artificially lower blood sugar, then it might go down too low, right? And we don't want the blood sugar to be too low. So this, by the way, this is something to celebrate. This would be an opportunity to work with your doctor. Don't take it from Trent. Work with your doctor on lowering or eliminating your medication. And that is the goal in the first place, right? But that should be done with your doctor. And so, yes, if you're going to go on this protocol, you should talk to your doctor about adjusting your medication down. And that's why, I mean, if you looked at the chat, probably over 100 people talked about getting off a medication or more. And Misty talked about getting off several. So that's what we're going for, but that should be done with your doctor. Okay. Dr. Tiffany, okay. Sorry, let me close this before I get bombarded. Dr. Tiffany, we want to thank you for coming on tonight's call. You have been the most wonderful guest. And every week, you guys, we have a really, really great guest, great medical professionals. We have great stories like Misty's story. If you or somebody that you love is struggling with your metabolic health and you want to find a natural solution that you can try that could perhaps change life forever, give this a try. Be consistent, use it properly. It won't let you down. And if loved ones are struggling, invite them to next week's call. We do these every Wednesday, and we'd love to have you back next week. Thank you, Dr. Tiffany. Thank you, Misty.
Thanks for having me.